And are you ready to start there, Steph?
Yeah, I can't find my cards though.
They're over here.
Oh, okay. I don't need it.
You don't have to worry about it because you're exempt. Yes.
Okay. Ready?
Did you know about 94% of our federal elections are won by candidates that spend the most on his or her own campaign? While most of you are not surprised that money has a huge role in winning in a political election, but I am fairly certain that most of the people in this room do not make more than $100,000 per year. Now you might ask me, why does that matter? But in the 2004 election, over 4/5 of the donations received came from less than 1% of our population. Furthermore, 86% of those donations were made by people that make $100,000 or more per year. With extensive research and avid interest in the subject, I would like to explain to you how the current campaign finance is run. Our current democratic process is controlled by private money. Therefore, it is not so much of a democratic process anymore, but tend to care for the rich. President Obama spent over $680 million in his 2008 political election, and his opponent Mitt Romney spent over $400 million. Together, this is about over $1 billion in political funding. Couldn't we use this money elsewhere to further our educational systems or help homelessness? Many of our elected positions depend on high campaign spending to ensure a victory. Many of the elected officials might try to repay some of their donators by passing bills that will be in their donators' favor. The Watergate scandal is one example where money has affected the politics. Nixon resigned to avoid impeachment because he authorized money to quiet a CIA agent that found them going with the Watergate scandal, him and his fellow partners. There are hundreds of other cases in our history that show that money affects people's decisions in politics. Our current government is run by the elite few that are able to contribute to those. Officials such as Mitch McConnell, Kentucky State U.S. Senator, said, "Our democracy depends on free speech, not for just some, but for all," referring to the elite that donate towards these officials and not the rest of our population. As most of us cannot contribute hundreds of thousands of dollars to those campaigns, is our opinion really heard? Everyone's opinion matters, whether you're in the top 5% or in the bottom 5%. So right now, only a few can afford to help the elected officials in their campaign financing. So those votes might be really the only ones or opinions that are heard. While the current campaign finance is an issue, there are other ways of sourcing funds to these elected officials. We could implement a federal funded campaign, which would create a strictly public funded campaign. In turn, it would develop a democracy that is equal and unbiased to the wealthy. Federal funded campaigns should be limited to a set dollar amount by each selected candidate, the amount received to each selected candidate. James Madison argued once that the Constitution shall only be amended on great and extraordinary occasions. This is one of those occasions. Tom Udall, the New Mexico State Senator, is trying to pass a constitutional amendment where it will limit the spending on elections and it'll allow for public funding. Udall is not alone, and there are many senators that are supporting him with him. The elected officials this way will no longer feel the need to repay their contributors, as they'll be all sponsored and funded by the general population. Many European countries have succeeded in campaign finance, such as Australia, Germany, and France, for a few examples. The condition for funding is a minimum share of votes in Australia and France. Germany, and they need to have 5% minimum share of votes in Australia and 4% in France. Germany granted funding to those that share 0.5 of votes in the latest election or European election. Now, some might argue, well, publicly funded campaigns will limit the freedom of speech of certain people, and it could lead to higher tax rates. Well, money is not freedom of speech. Money changes people's opinions of if they're going to get part of it or not. It changes their views and how they're going to act on a particular subject. So people should not be able to support with money anymore, but they can still support with their vote. Remember, every vote does count. Higher tax rates could happen, however, but donations still can exist. They just cannot be donated from a specific person to a specific person. With publicly funded campaign, this will avoid the power of money in today's campaign finance, which will eliminate the issues. The wealthy will still be able to contribute. However, the money will be solicited in ways that the general population agree upon. The money will no longer have a power in our democratic system, and it will actually be a democratic system. In conclusion, I've shown you the power of money and how it affects our current political finance. It should no longer care for the rich, but tend to our general population. Our top elected officials are currently affected and controlled by our private money that are invested in them, which will impact their decisions in office. Without the help of a majority of our population, our political system will continue to be run by private money and not the invested in interests of our general population. Your vote needs to count, and it is currently limited by the amount of money that a person can accumulate and spend in an election period. I would like you to contact your congressperson about the need of a political campaign finance reform. And if you're not sure on who your congressperson is, I sent out an email regarding that, explaining how to contact them, and I also included a link of political campaign funding websites that can help out additionally to talking to your congressperson. So let's put an end to our country being run by the wealth, and let's run it ourselves.
And time for Daniel.
7:14.
Thank you.